Howdy, this is the award-winning car talk show In Wheel Time, your weekly go-to all things automotive place. Along with Mike out of this world, Mars, King Conrad DeLong, Jeff Zekin off camera, I'm Don Armstrong. So glad that you could join us on this Saturday. It's December 19th, 2020. We're getting real close to getting rid of 2020, and we're all so happy. Yeah, exactly. So last week we talked to a couple. We've talked to them several times, but last week we talked to the Lilienthals, Andy and Mercedes Lilienthal, about their rather unusual vehicle called the Delica. It's a Mitsubishi Delica, and as trying to get me to explain, we're going to let them explain exactly what the Delica is one more time for our listeners or viewers that weren't with us last week. So if you don't mind, please tell us.
Okay, so Mitsubishi Delica is a van. In most instances, they're four-wheel drive with a true four-wheel drive system. So high range, low range, two-wheel drive as well. So Delica, D-E-L-I-C-A, is a portmanteau or a combination of delivery and car, originally introduced in the 1960s. But ours is in 1994.
Okay. So last week we kind of went over all of the things that you went through to get the Delica from Florida up there to the Portland area. And by the way, thank you for getting up this morning. I see that you've got your PJs covered up by your icy
your
cold
thermal clothes.
Yeah, your thermal clothes. So we appreciate all that you do, and thank you for joining us again this weekend. But you know,
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you guys. So we didn't get to see the inside of the Delica, and we thought, 1994. Can we remember that far back?
Now, there is a reason that it's a 94. I mean, right, because of what it is. Could you explain that real quick?
Yeah, so the United States has a 25-year import rule. So if a vehicle is never federalized, crash tested, sold here in the United States, it can't be brought in and registered until it's 25 years old. And so ours is the 94, so just past that 25-year mark by a little bit. So this is the newer style of what they call the Delica Star Wagon. Delica Space Gear.
That's the newer version.
And the older version is the earlier version is the Star Wagon. This is a Space Gear.
Okay, just wanted to keep everybody up as to why it was a 94 and not something newer, because that's as new as you can get right now.
That's right.
And they still make them.
So they do still make Mitsubishi Delicas. They're onto a new generation. This one was made until 2007.
Oh wow!
Current Delica is called the D5, and it's still for sale in Japan. It's and like so many other, what were more capable four-wheel drives, it's now more of a crossover, but it still has four-wheel drive, but it's like a four-cylinder only, and it's only automatic only.
So they pulled its teeth, is what you're saying.
A little bit. I'd still drive one, but
that's why we rock ours that are almost 30 years old. So
yeah. And how many miles does this one that you're driving currently have on it?
This one has just over, I believe, 45,000 miles.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So
on a diesel too. I mean, it's a diesel, so it's nothing.
It's a diesel manual gear as well.
It is.
It's a shifter
car. It's a 2.8 liter turbo diesel with a top mount intercooler, a 5-speed manual transmission, and then that aforementioned transfer case as well.
Yeah, I want to see the driver's space. I want to see how this all is set up.
Yeah, let's take a look.
All right, let's take a look.
Give me just a second
off the jerry can here.
That's okay. You just go right ahead. We're up there in Portland right now, obviously, and it's kind of a gloomy day, and it's obviously a little bit chilly. So
and it's early.
There's the outside of the Delica. And, I guess part of the reason that we love you guys is because, let's face it, you are a little bit weird in your taste for cars.
Thank you, yes.
We take that as a compliment.
It is a compliment.
And it was totally meant as one.
So we'll show you starting from the back here. These things are extremely versatile on the inside. So maybe some of your viewers are familiar with the Honda Element and the seats that fold up against the sides. Well, the Delica was doing that back in '94. So both of these seats actually do retract upwards. So when you do that, you free up a lot of space. So it's great for cargo. Now, fully carpeted interior, all that stuff. Let's go ahead and move to the side.
Well, that's a cool feature.
I think it's a little jittery.
Yeah, that's a cool feature to fold them up to the side because it really does make that much more space.
Well, I'll bet you that WeatherTech does not make a floor mat series for that.
You're
correct, right?
You are correct, and I have checked. So on the inside, you can see the seats. They will move forward. They will move backwards. There's so many knobs and buttons on these things.
We're still learning them.
Right. So you've got this part moves.
Boy, you got to be pretty close to the driver there, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
180 degrees.
Oh, my God.
All kinds of stuff. So you can, when we bought this and drove it back from Florida, we actually
didn't realize everything it did, huh? Oh, how cool is that?
We had both seats in this configuration, and we had an air mattress and our sleeping bags, and we slept in the back of it. So it's extremely versatile for both cargo and camper van perspective, which is one reason why they're so popular globally for camper vans.
And you also still have to be fairly limber.
Yes.
Yes. Got to be willing to sleep in one.
Right. So I'm going to come over here.
Hopefully it's not too jumpy.
Talk to you a little bit about the interior here. This is about as normal as it gets on this vehicle. Yeah, it's very 90s. I don't think there's a single squared off angle in this entire vehicle, exterior or interior. So it's pretty plain Jane. You can see we've got a rather tall gear shifter, e-brake. You've got your transfer case down here. We put in a US spec radio. The Japanese spec radios have a different frequency, and I believe it's, if I remember correctly, it's 70 megahertz to 90 megahertz, I believe. And so that allowed us to listen to the jazz channel, and that was it. So, hey, I like jazz, but not that much, right? So we did put a different stereo in there, some different speakers as well. I had to do a little customization to get all that to fit. But otherwise, you know, we're living on here over on the right-hand side of the vehicle, as you can plainly see. Your instrumentation is just like any other car. Some people ask, being on the right side, are the pedals switched or anything? Pedals are not switched. Everything down here is the exact same. Now up here, it is switched. So on the left side, you've got your wipers. On the right side, you've got your turn signal indicators.
So it always screws us up.
I was going to say,
there's been many left turns that turn my wipers on.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So the pedals are the same. So the accelerator is on the far right, and the clutch is on the left. So what about shifting with your left hand instead of your right? I mean, That's
fun.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there were also a lot of 1 to 4 upshifts when you first start learning this. But, you know, you just kind of get used to it. The first time I ever drove a manual transmission right-hand drive was actually overseas in New Zealand, and it took some getting used to. And but, you know, it, like anything else, it sort of becomes second nature. I will say the only thing that can be a little bit dicey is if you are alone on a two-way highway and you need to go around somebody. Luckily, we're not passing a whole lot of people in this thing.
Yeah,
so
you can't see around them.
Right, exactly.
Other than the occasional farm implement or dump truck or something like that, as long as you've got 2 passengers, then, you know, you have a spotter over here.
Wow.
But
which is me.
Which is her.
Usually.
But you don't ever find yourself drifting over to the wrong lane, so you're on the left side thinking that you're in on a Japanese road, huh?
Right. So that's actually a really good question. So when we first got our first van, which was right-hand drive, you had this tendency to hug the middle, right? Because we're on the other side of the vehicle. And so we had to make sure to consciously train our brains to hug the shoulder, not the middle, obviously, for safety reasons. So, but nowadays, it's not even a thing.
I always say, make sure your right shoulder as you're driving is along the side stripe of the road. So right stripe, right shoulder. And as long as you're close to that is usually what helps me quite a bit.
How often do you drive it?
We drive,
not enough.
we've got a few vehicles, and so we try to drive it every week, every other week, something like that. We try to start them every week just because they're kind of old diesels and it's kind of cool here and whatnot. So we want to keep the fluids running through them. But we try to drive it regularly. We try to drive all of them regularly. We have 3 of these Japanese domestic market turbo diesel Mitsubishis. 2 of them are SUVs. One of them is currently on jacks as I'm rebuilding the front end, putting new ball joints and CV boots and stuff like that on it. But we try to drive them regularly. Don't like them sitting.
So have you brought your Delica to the Mitsubishi dealer, and what did they say?
This one we have not. But when we had our 89 Delica Star Wagon, we did bring it to the Mitsubishi dealership a couple of times just because I was either getting parts for our other Mitsubishis or whatnot. And it always drew people out like, I'd go to the parts counter. Because some of these parts are interchangeable with U.S. stuff, Monteros or whatnot. And so I'd be picking up like an axle seal or something. And I'd come out and all the sales guys were around the van. And I'd get my key out and they're like, is this yours? I said, yeah. Like, well, what is it? Like, it's Mitsubishi, but what is it? And so I'd kind of have to go into, discussions about what it is. And without going too far down this Delica rabbit hole,
but we're already way past that.
The United States did get what they called the Mitsubishi van. Mitsubishi van was essentially a 2-wheel drive Delica with a gas engine only and an automatic transmission only. So it was sold just for a few years up until 1990. And I remember as a kid, because we grew up with Mitsubishis, and I remember as a kid seeing them at the dealership and thinking, those rear seats swiveled even in the older ones. And I thought, man, that was cool. You could like sit backwards in the car. I mean, I never thought I'd own one, but so the U.S. did have some of the earlier 2-wheel drive versions, but they were just called the van.
Yeah, but didn't they? You sat forward of the front axle in the originals, didn't you? So your legs were in the crumple zone.
Your legs were the crumple zone.
They were the airbags.
Yes, so the earlier Delicas all were a forward control vehicle. You sat atop the engine. To access the engine, you had to literally undo a couple of latches underneath the seats. Then the whole, both seats, which were mounted on basically a platform, the whole thing went up, and you had to access just kind of like sort of like the Toyota vans of the days, and even I suppose something like an old Ford Econoline or a Dodge A100, something like that. We had a ton of fun in that van. We took that all the way from the southern part of British Columbia all the way down to Arizona a couple of times. It was extremely slow. The L400s with the 2.8-liter turbo diesel compared to the L300 Star Wagons with the 2.5-liter turbo diesel, which was not intercooled. This will cruise at 75 miles an hour all day, no problem.
Once you get up to that speed.
Yeah, and I mean it's not
it's not as glacial.
Yeah, it's not as glacial as the old ones are, but it's also not going to win many drag races.
No,
so
maybe against a snail.
So that old one was kind of like a reverse tilt cab van or truck, except it was all done on the inside.
Yeah, very, very similar. Very similar.
You had to take all your stuff out of the center console and next to the seats, though, in order for you to lift the seat up, which was kind of a pain. So when traveling, we'd check the oil, but we'd have to clean out half the cab in order to check the oil.
Gosh.
A reverse COE.
Like the master cylinder for that were on the dashboard. So you'd open the door, and then there was a panel that you accessed for the master cylinder. So there was a lot of really
weird,
quirky things with it, and it got a ton of attention just because it was so bizarre. And when we picked this up, we thought, people will just think it's
another
just
van,
like a Sienna or something like that. But I'll tell you what, the first place we stopped in Florida, it was about 98 degrees with about 100% humidity.
Oh, it was
I had stopped.
Pretty hot.
I was taking a sip of my Coke, and these guys, they're walking past, and you could just see them like looking at this van, and I looked up and they caught my eye, and they kind of gave me this like nod, like that's cool. I think it's like the caravan on BFGs or something. What is that?
But I think they also had like a lifted Cherokee. Didn't they have a Cherokee that was like on 37s or something? Yeah. So yeah, they were from that crowd.
It definitely, even this one, which is not as 80s sci-fi looking as the last one, still gets plenty of attention and plenty of questions, especially, we actually, we were on the Oregon coast and sitting at a stoplight, and we see this gentleman next to us, and we can see him kind of gesturing. And
older guy.
Yeah, and so we roll down the window, and he yells at Mercedes. And says, "Why don't you let him drive? You know,
get off the phone." And I was like, but wait a second, he is.
I'm over here.
He turned before I could reply, so I just. It took me by surprise. He was actually accosting me because I was on my phone sitting in the passenger seat, and he thought I was driving.
Yeah.
How funny.
We've had all these kinds of things happen when you have a right-hand drive vehicle. We should get a fake steering wheel for the other side.
Yeah. Listen, we got somebody asking us about car insurance. Is that an issue?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It is an issue until you figure it out. Basically, I guess it was 2017 when we bought our first one, we signed the paperwork and we called State Farm and said, "Okay, we bought this."
In the parking lot.
And they, after about a half hour on hold, they said, "Yeah, we can't insure that." And we went, "Uh-oh, this is something we haven't thought about." So we very carefully drove it home and parked it until we figured out what to do. So what we do, because these aren't daily drivers, they are more
collectibles.
I guess, weekend.
They're for
weekend
event trips. Yeah.
Hagerty.
Exactly. We go through Hagerty on all three of our JDM four-wheel drives. And Hagerty does have some restrictions like mileage and whatnot, and that's fine because we're not daily driving these. These are our fun weekend cars. There are people, however, that do own these vans, and they do daily drive them. Apparently, Progressive will do that. I've heard.
Yeah, but they don't pay claims.
Yeah.
Neither one of them ever pay a claim, so that's okay. So.
And that's one of the things with Hagerty Insurance. With this one, we're probably one of the first. I mean, we know a few others now in the country that have this vehicle, the L400 or Space Gear, but it was only legal since last year. So Hagerty, this insurance for this particular model went a lot higher in price per year than our old one because they really don't know what to claim it against. They haven't had many crashes because it's only been allowed in the U.S. for a year and a half. Well, a year and 10 months now?
Yeah, but they've been great. The nice thing about them is, they don't even hesitate on agreed upon value. They ask you, what is it worth? And we tell them.
Right.
And every time we make a significant upgrade, we tell them, hey, we added,
increase the amount
to the value of the car.
Yeah.
And they say, okay.
Yeah,
we haven't had to use them yet.
So I think you showed us the bumpers last time we had you on.
Yeah, can you give us another quick look at the outside?
Modifications of the bumpers.
You bet.
Be interesting to see how much those bumpers weighed compared to what you took off of it, because I can't imagine that thing's going to deal very well with a whole lot of.
And while you're doing that, I want to personally thank you for doing my pre-owned car vehicle of the week for next week. I do appreciate that.
So this is the front end of the vehicle. It's kind of dirty because we had it on the trail recently. This is a weld-together kit from a company called Coastal Off-Road. Coastal Off-Road is in British Columbia. And so it comes flat packed and it's all pickled metal. And so it's all ready to be welded together. So all the pieces are labeled. And then we had a great fab shop in Oregon City, Oregon called Wanderlust Overland. They welded this kit together. It has some options. So we have the bull bar up here, which helps to protect the grill. We have an integrated winch mount for our Warren winch down here. We have a skid plate as well, which is really critical because it helps protect both the oil pan, the oil filter, some of the critical bits as well. We've got some light force lights on the sides here, angled out to help monitor the ditches and whatnot. And then we have light force Venom 6-inch driving lights up on top here. So it lights up like a very, very bright Christmas tree. When we turn that stuff on.
I'll bet everybody with a Jeep Wrangler within 1,000 miles of you are going, oh, yeah, I want that.
NASA hasn't contacted us yet about seeing us from space, but I think we'll get there. So we've got the hood scoop up here. That's gonna feed the intercooler. I'll pop the hood real quick.
That's
You
factory?
see underneath the hood.
That's factory?
The hood scoop is factory?
Yes, that's factory.
I love this thing.
So what kind of fuel economy have you gotten with this, especially in your ride back from Florida?
On the highway, we typically get maybe lower 20s, but when we came back from Florida, I think the highest was 26 or 20s. Yeah, about 25, 26. And the lowest we got was, I think, 17 and a half or something.
Who did the most driving coming back?
The person on the right.
I did most of the driving. Actually, I think I did almost all. No, Mercedes did some of the driving, too.
I did a good amount.
We both did some of it.
You did the majority, I think, because I ended up having to work on my laptop.
Yeah. So you can see top mount intercooler, 2.8-liter turbo diesel engine. It's a little crammed in here just because it's a van kind of style.
Yeah, but you know what? Let me just interject this. The one thing that I see about the whole thing, you can tell that you guys take baby care of this thing and have got it all cleaned up, because you know as well as I do that that thing was not that way when you bought it.
You know what? I have to say, shout out to Car Automotive in Fort Myers, Florida, who we bought this from. This thing, you could have eaten off it. He did such an amazing job detailing it.
He had it, yeah. He had it detailed and
clean. I think it looks dirty right now, but we do use it. We use it on the trails. We use it. We get it dirty. So, but we do really try to keep up on all this stuff. You know, an ounce of prevention kind of thing. So we try to keep everything up. We keep up on oil changes, keeping everything clean. All that stuff. The only thing I need to do right now is I do need to replace the expansion tank on the cooling system. It's just it's sort of a known pain point. So I bought another one. That's another question we get asked all the time is about parts. So where do you get an air filter for a Mitsubishi 4M40 turbo diesel never sold in the United States? This one, I do have to get parts from
Amazon.
You know what?
Sometimes.
Amazon is a great resource. I actually couldn't find this one on Amazon, but I was able to find it on a website called PartsSouk, and that is PartSouq. And I believe they're based in the UK. And the parts are really great price, but then you do have to pay a fair bit of shipping. So it's kind of a good idea to try to get a whole bunch of stuff at one time. So I ordered a few air filters, that expansion tank. I think I ordered a couple other bits as well. But because of Canada has the same import rule we do, except it's 10 years earlier. So Canada has 15 years versus 25 years. So that means things like this have been up in Canada for 10 years before they've been here. These vans are extremely popular in Canada, especially Western Canada, British Columbia. And so there are shops up in British Columbia that specialize in nothing but Mitsubishi Delicas.
Road trip.
Yeah, road trip.
So Coombs County Auto up on Vancouver Island, for instance, I buy a bunch of things from them. I just bought some glow plugs, thermostat. And so shipping's not too bad.
Andy, Mercedes, I don't mean to cut you short, but we're running short on time. But I wanted to ask you guys one thing before we let you go. Have you guys ever been up to Rust Valley Restores?
I was thinking the same thing.
No, I've not heard of them.
Okay, it's a show. It's a show that's on Netflix, and it's about this crazy guy up there, and I can't remember the location. It's out in the sticks.
It's in Armstrong, isn't it?
It's in Armstrong, British Columbia.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. Look it up, Rust Valley Restores, because I think that your next assignment is going to be to go up there and research him and his show called Rust Valley Restores. Look it up on Netflix. I think that you'll really appreciate it. He's a car geek like all of us are.
They will go there.
Oh, awesome.
We'll add it to our queue.
All right. Well, hey, it's always great to talk to you guys.
so much.
Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having us again.
Thanks for getting up, and you guys can now get out of your outerwear and get back inside where the PJs are good for today.
Put that coffee on.
We need to go back to sleep. It's just past dawn.
Happy holidays.
That's it. We love you guys. Thank you.
Happy holidays to you guys.
All right. Bye, guys.
Andy and Mercedes Lilienthal with the Mitsubishi Delica.
Cool
It
truck.
is awesome.
Just a cool truck.
I know. I can't get enough of it.
And you can tell their passion for the vehicle. You know, they really love what they're driving.
It's not one-sided. They both are. They're both equally into this.
Well, it's all right-sided.
Oh, well.
I don't know.
That's fascinating.
I don't know if I could shift with my left hand.
Well, that was kind of what I wanted to see, how it was set up, and it's set up kind of like I thought it would be, but just the coordination factor of adjusting from a right hand shifting to a left, particularly with a 5-speed.
Yeah. Well, my son lived in Australia, and they drive on the wrong side of the road there, and they have right-hand drive vehicles.
My daughter Laura lived in Italy.
And you have to shift with your left hand, so that was a real experience for him. But yeah, cool couple, cool truck. It's we'll have them on again sometime in the future. Shout out to Wade Stoddard. We saw your comments about Parts Q and your Delica that you've had for 10 years because you live in Canada.
Well,
nice. Yeah.
So
Thank you for tuning in.
They had some of their followers tune into the show. We appreciate that as well.
Well, remember me telling you about Carlos Ghosn, the expatriate?
The gift that keeps giving.
It does. Well, Carlos is under investigation now in France for possible tax evasion during his last 3 years heading Renault and Nissan, according to a person familiar with the matter. Spokeswoman for Ghosn declined to comment. Tax probe adds to Ghosn's legal woes in France, where authorities are already investigating his role and expenses covered by Renault and Dutch subsidiary that oversaw its alliance with Nissan. Ghosn was arrested in Tokyo 2 years ago and accused of financial deeds.
And escaped in the luggage.
Including underreporting his compensation at Nissan. He's denied the charges and escaped last year to Lebanon in a music box.
Those three houses in South America weren't his. Yeah. They were his wife's.
Yeah. I think he's going to be a permanent resident of Lebanon.
I think so, too. We talked to the Sylvania headlight guy.
Right.
Well, in efforts by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety to strengthen criteria to receive its top safety awards have led automakers to improve the headlights on some 2021 vehicles, including the Audi A7, Honda Accord, Hyundai Palisade, Mazda CX-30. If you're into highlights,
HIDs.
Lights.
Yeah, then check out those cars. There's a whole list of them out there. And Fiat Chrysler plans to spend $150 million to set up a global technology center in the southern Indian city of Hyderabad. Let me hear it, Jeff.
Hyderabad?
What?
Send your comments to info.
What's the problem?
Come on, Jeff. Give it to us.
Come on.
We need more Jeff.
Coward.
Center will create nearly 1,000 jobs and will focus on development for future mobility in areas such as connected vehicles, artificial intelligence, data science, and cloud technology. Just saying. Jeff is turning 3 shades of red over there, and I don't quite understand why.
So you heard that the CEO of Toyota called EVs overhyped as a huge mismatch in cost versus goals for the industry?
Didn't hear that.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was pretty funny.
It's one of those
from Toyota, who sells the Prius and has for generations now.
Yeah.
You started all of this.
You're going to speak now?
Yeah, I did.
He is now.
Oh, now he's going to speak. Okay. Well, I have to tell you that it has certainly been a fun December 19th show.
Happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
Happy
absolutely.
birthday to you. Happy birthday, Don and Conrad. Well, I'm singing to myself.
And Mike coming up.
Happy birthday to you. And Mars coming up as a Christmas Eve baby.
Well, that's it for this episode of the In Wheel Time Car Show. Hey, when you're on Facebook, please give us a like, tell your friends about us, and share our junk. You'll get Conrad's unicorn hunting features along with all things automotive all week long.
As we shake your hand and say goodbye.
The In Wheel Time Car Show streams on Facebook, YouTube, and on InWheelTime.com. Podcasts available on Pandora, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict, amongst others. Special thanks to all of our guests today. The In Wheel Time Chief Engineer is the fabulous David Ainsley. Our video sales and marketing man is Jeffrey Zekin. This week's In Wheel Time Car Show is produced and directed by
Suze.
He didn't think of that until the words come out of his mouth.
Came out of my mouth.
For booking agent and podcast man Mike Out of This World Mars and his royalty King Conrad DeLong, I'm Don Armstrong saying so long for now. And we will see you on our next live show beginning at 8 a.m. next Saturday, 8 a.m. to 11, our new hours right here on the Smoke and Mirrors Network. Thanks for being part of the In Wheel Time family. Mask up, stay healthy, and we'll see you next week.